Hello there, welcome to this tutorial video about how to create a grid that turns into a carousel on mobile view. Before we get started, I would like to show you what we will try to achieve at the end of this tutorial video. So this is a grid section. Let's just assume, although it is not really beautiful, let's just assume that it is a grid section with 6 cards that is displaying information to the user. So this is where the magic happens. When you click on inspect and reduce the view to a mobile view, it turns into a carousel that allows the user to navigate better through the items that are here, as you can see. So before we get started, I would like to install some few tools that are going to help us in this tutorial video. The first one is style components. I'm sure some of you know about it. If you don't, you can check out the documentation. It's really easy to use. So what we are going to do is just install it using this particular command. So let's go back to our code. Let's open up the terminal and then paste. Okay, so after installing style components, the next tool that we are going to install is the style components breakpoint. So this is the npm page. I'll leave the link below in the description. So we are going to copy this command and then just paste it in the terminal of our application. So the next tool that we are also going to install is the carousel that we are going to use in this application. So this is the carousel. I will also leave the link in the description below. This is how to install it. Npm install React Elastic Carousel. All we need to do is just copy it and then paste it in our terminal. So we've successfully installed all the tools that we are going to use. The next thing that we are going to do is some cleanup. So when we start this project, this is what we are going to have. Let's remove the header because we won't be needing it. This is the boilerplate that you get when you use nps create react app. So the thing that we are going to do is just create a folder that we are going to keep our style components in. Let's name it style components, and inside it we'll create a style component. The first style component that we are going to create is the grid carousel. Let's create a folder for it too. So inside this grid carousel, we'll create two files. The first one is the index.js file, and the next one will be grid carousel.js. So what we are going to do now is create a style component in this particular file and export it so that we can use it elsewhere. So we can go back to this documentation and see how a style component is created. So first thing first, you'll have to import style from style components. Let's just copy this and paste it right here. After importing style, the next thing you're going to do is create the component and assign it to a variable. To create it, we are going to use style then dot the component that we are going to create. As you can see here, they're trying to create a button component, so they use style.button. Our own is going to be different because it's going to be style.div. So let's do that. Export, let's call it a grid reset. Let's call it a grid. Export, sorry, const grid should be equals to style.div. Okay. So to get a grid, the first thing we write is display should be grid, and then we'll just create the grid template columns. Let's use the repeat function, repeat, and then the auto fit function, then comma, and then minimum max between 250 pixel to 1 FR. So basically, this basically does is that it creates items between the size of 250 pixel to 1 FR. 1 FR meaning as big as they can get based on the space. So let's continue. Let's give it a gap of at least 50 pixel and a margin too of 50 pixel, and let's justify our item to center. Okay, so let's come to this index and import React first of all, and then create a functional component. Let's call it carousel that we are going to export. So what we are going to do is that we are going to use the style components that we created in this particular file right here. We are going to import it. What did we call it? A grid, right? We can import grid from dot slash carousel. So when you import it, this particular carousel is going to collect props since it is a functional component. So we can just use it here, the grid that we just imported, grid, and then close it here. So what we are going to do is that we are going to use this carousel as a wrapper that is going to wrap a bunch of items that are going to be inside a grid. So when we use it as a wrapper, the items that are going to be inside this particular wrapper will be provided to us in these props, so we can access them by saying props.children. Don't worry, if you don't understand, I will explain better when we make a little bit of progress. So let's just say props.children right here. So the next thing that we are going to do is that we'll come to our app.js and then import. Let me remove this. Okay, so what we do next is import grid carousel from dot slash component slash carousel slash index. So when we do that, the next thing that we're going to do is put it right here, grid carousel, and then another grid carousel. We're going to use it as a wrapper, and then we'll put a bunch of stuff inside. So for now, let's just create a div with a class name card. Let's create up to, let's say 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll have it here 1, 2, and we add some content to it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the next thing that we're going to do is come to this app.css and give this card some style. Card. First of all, let's give it a background color of red. Let's give it a color of white so that we can see the text that is inside. Hashtag FFF. And then a font size of about 30 pixels and a font weight of bold, and then padding of about 20. And then let's make the box sizing to be border box. And then what else? Okay, I think that's enough. Let's see what we will have. Let's come to app.js. Let's check our application. Okay, so this is what we have. Let's give it some weight so that it will look better. Let's come to app.css right here and just add width. Should be 100%. So let's see what it looks like now. Okay, it looks a little bit better. Let's give it height also. Let's say 250 pixels. Okay, well, much better, I think. Let's just add some few small styles. Okay, the space should be flex. Justify content should be center, so that it will be in the center. Align items too should also be center. Okay, well, much better, I guess. So as you can see now, we only have a grid with 6 items. So when we try to inspect and take this thing to a mobile view, the user will have to scroll for some time before he reaches the 6th item. So I guess I feel like for better user experience, it will be better if we just have a carousel here that the user can easily navigate through. So let's try to implement that. To implement that, we are going to check out this particular documentation. What we need to do is import carousel from React Elastic Carousel. Let's come and implement that here. Let's paste it. And then to use this carousel, all you need to do is just wrap your items inside the carousel keyword here. So just come here. Let's add it here. So instead of items here, all we need to do is just add props the children like we did in the grid above. So we are having an error because a functional component can only have one parent element, I mean. So let's just add a fragment here, another one here. Okay, so we are good to go. So what we need to do next is just create a wrapper that we are going to use to hide this element. So let's check it out. Okay, so we have our carousel here. So now what we need to do is to make this carousel only appear when we are at the mobile view, and also to make this grid disappear when we are at the mobile view. So to implement that, let's start with the grid first of all. Or let me say, let's start with the carousel first of all. So we come here to the index.css file and just the class name that we give this carousel, we give it a wrapper. So we'll come to the index.css and just style this wrapper. Let's first of all give it a margin of 20 pixel, and then write a media query here for min width of, let's say, 600 pixels, and then the wrapper, the display should be none. So let's check it out and see. Okay, so now we cannot see our carousel when we are on a desktop view, but when we reduce the screen size to less than 600, you see it is now here. So it has now appeared. So we are going to do the same thing for the grid. To do that, we are going to use this style components breakpoints. First of all, what we need to do is import this theme provider to create our breakpoints. So we'll come here and just import this, the theme provider, and then create our breakpoints just right here. Let's change this small screen to 600. We have XS, we have SM for small screen, MD for medium, LG for large, and XL for extra large. So all you need to do is just get this theme provider and wrap it all around the application here. So Control V, and then let's clean here and just get here, Control X, then put it right here. So okay, so now the next thing to do is to come over here and let's see, after creating this, let us see how they use the grid. Okay, this is an instance of them using the grid, so let's just copy this particular segment of code and then come right here and paste it. So what this means is that at breakpoint of medium, the font size will be 16 pixel, but what we want to implement is that at breakpoint of XX to small screen, the display of this grid should be none, so that it will disappear and we'll only have a carousel to display to our user. None. So let's check it out. Okay, breakpoint is now defined. We did not import it. Let's just import this right now. Okay. And now we have our enforcement, and then here it is. So as you can see now, when we are at the desktop view, you have your grid that displays all 6 items. But then when you reduce the screen to a mobile view, it becomes more convenient because the user can just easily navigate and doesn't have to scroll all the way down to just see the 6 items. Okay, so this is the end of this tutorial video, and I hope you understand the point that I'm trying to make. Goodbye.